And we're live with Whiskey, Wine, and Writing. I'm Nikki Roberti, your host for this evening. Tasha unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. And today I have the amazing twice over Rachel Lynn Solomon and Rachel Simon. These are both wonderful agented ladies. And they are personal friends of mine, and I think you're going to love meeting them. You can read more about them on our site, whiskeyWineWriting.com. But tonight they're going to talk about how they became real-life best friends through the online writing community, contests, revisions, and more. So how about Rachel Solomon? Why don't you go first and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I live in Seattle. I write contemporary YA, and I'm represented. I'm going to do that a million times. I'm so bad at talking.
Well, we're really casual here, so stuttering is okay.
Yeah. Not representative of how I write, hopefully. I am represented by Molly Jaffa at Folio Literary Management, and I've been with her for about like a year and a half, almost 2 years, I guess. And I met Rachel Simon on Twitter like 3 years ago, you think?
Yeah, like 3 years ago. Oh, should I talk about myself now?
Go ahead.
Sure.
I'm Rachel Simon, and I don't have a little handy thing there, so I physically made one.
Beautiful. We love it.
And I am a YA writer. I live in Boston. I write contemporary YA. And I'm represented by Nikki's agent, Nikki is represented by my agent.
Yeah, you had her first, so you're like...
her name is Carrie Howland of the Donadio and Olson agency. And I don't know what else I should say about myself.
That's fantastic. And
I'm pretty sure I stalked Rachel before she became my critique.
That's it. There's nothing else about me.
I think that with Twitter, stalking is just, if you're going to be on Twitter, that's what you got to do.
I vaguely remember that she had like an R&R, and I was like, oh, I'm doing right now. Like, I'll email you if you have questions or whatever. And
yeah, no, and we were DMing about it. It was for a book that I shelved. Like, it wasn't the book that I got signed with. But yeah, we like started DMing, and then we started G-chatting, and then we started texting and calling, Skyping, and then meeting IRL. I have been where she is currently sitting.
That's fantastic.
Did I sleep on that couch? I've slept on that couch.
No, I think you slept on that couch.
Okay.
You guys are literally...
I'm going to pivot because that's not really the point of this.
I've been near that wall.
I love you guys. I just love that you guys are on opposite coasts completely, but, I mean, you have the same initials, you write the same genre.
That was sort of how we connected, I think. It was like maybe someone else who was tweeting, and we were like, oh, we have the same name and the same initials, and we're both Jewish, and we're the same age. And, like, our parents have the same initials. Like, a bunch of really weird stuff.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Which, for everyone who's watching, if you are just now tuning in, I'm seeing people are popping in, their Twitter handles are down here, so please go follow these amazing ladies who are just incredible authors. And, I have an agent sister who we decided recently with agencies, it's kind of like a sorority, so she's my big, right? Yeah?
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, my phone has, it says, like, little, and then it says, like, Nikki.
Little Nikki?
Little Nikki? Oh, my God.
Parentheses. So that, like, I'm not, like, who's this person random texting me.
So I just think, you guys are a really cool picture of, just how powerful the writing community online can be. Because I know a lot of people, especially with Pitch Madness, were trying to connect with others, and sometimes it can seem kind of fleeting because you just do it for a contest, or, you connect over just a simple tweet. But you guys, took it more to become, like, CPs and then real-life friends. Would you say the process is almost kind of like dating?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel is my CP, and then I have another CP, Jenna, who is at symbol, raddest girl ever, and she's Canadian. I'm always like, I have a Canadian CP and a person on the other side of the coast. But it took me, I would say, 2 years before I connected with Rachel and Jenna. I went through, I think, 6 people that read my books before that, and like they were really great, but I don't think, and I think it's a learning process that you sort of have to trial and error about how people work and how you work as a critique partner and how you critique and how they critique, and it took a while for me to find the right people and the right sort of critique that I needed. I'm very needy.
Oh my God, yes, you are. And you send a lot of like emoji texts. One might say too many, but
I have an emoji problem. It was briefly like in my Twitter bio. Like it was like I have an emoji problem.
No, but with regard to like finding the right person, I think I was sort of in the same situation, but maybe just like a year behind you, because I didn't even show anyone my work until after I was out of college, and I was like, oh, I'm going to take writing seriously, air quotes. And I had like an in-person crit group, but no one really wrote YA. And then there were a couple people I found through other contests or through Write On Con online, but like Rachel, I think was the person I really connected with, because at the time I was working part-time and you were doing like some temp stuff, so we both had a lot of free time to just like write / be on GChat. So no, I mean, wouldn't you say that I think like a lot of the reason is just like we were around a lot? And
yeah, I'm like, well, I was just thinking about the other day about how I really missed word warring with you.
Oh yeah, we should get back into that.
Is that like a word sprint?
Yeah, like we'd like write for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then we'd chat for 10 minutes.
I love those. I think every writer, if you've never done a word sprint, just get on Twitter and ask other people to do them, because I've never written so much through a writer's block than with a word sprint.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean I would say it's trial and error with critique partners. I mean, definitely, and I have a bunch of beta readers that I don't necessarily read their stuff, but they read my stuff. Shout out to Katie Upperman, who is at Katie Upperman on Twitter. My book is about a girl in the military, or whose sister's in the military, and Katie's husband is in the military, so she like read my book and was like, "This is wrong," which is great. I didn't know anything. So, like, I haven't read Katie's stuff, but she's read mine. So.
Which I think is really important. We actually got a few questions on whiskeywineWriting.com when we were doing CP Classifieds that some people didn't realize exactly the difference between a beta reader and a CP partner, a critique partner, and that's basically that a critique partner is reciprocated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still feel like if you're beta reading something for someone, you should at least volunteer to read something of theirs in the future, just as a thank you. I mean, obviously it's not something that you need to have reciprocation for, but it's like really nice. I mean, there were like a couple times where I read something for someone and they never offered to read something from me, and like it didn't make me dislike them that much, but I just wondered why. Like, it just seems natural for me. Like, I will always offer when I'm reading for someone, and even during Pitch Wars, like there were people that I was happy to read, and I even gained like another CP type person through that outside of mentorship.
And we connected. I guess we forgot to say that Rachel Solomon was actually my Pitch Wars mentor last year. Who, like, seriously, I cannot thank you enough for all the stuff you did for me.
No, it was you.
Wonderful person, read my book twice, and helped me get my awesome agent, which happened to be, Rachel Simon's agent. And that was a pure coincidence. Though I do attribute you, Rachel, for, Rachel Simon, for tweeting my book, because then another agent sister tweeted the book, and then our agent saw the tweet, and so I really have you to thank, too.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like, when you, like, announced your thing, I think I, like, tweeted, I was like, look, I match-made. I, like, was a matchmaker. But, yeah, I mean, wait, what were we talking about? Sorry.
We were just talking about Pitch Wars, because I forgot how Rachel...
Yeah. So, I think I always entered Pitch Wars. Like, I have a funny story. I always entered Pitch Wars. And then I'd write the emails to the mentors that I wanted. And then I'd back out because I realized that my book needed a lot of work. more work than the time of getting a mentor from Pitch Wars to, like, what is it, being on a blog for Asian people?
Yeah.
I don't know what that's called. Showcase. I realized that the edits that I needed to do would be like a longer time frame than that. So I would definitely say, like, for people who are like debating about it and are unsure, that there's no harm in entering. I'm gonna put this down if that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. You can put your champ for holding it. I was actually wondering how long it would take before you were like,
More delicate hands.
Yeah, I mean, your blood must be rushing down.
That I would say enter, but also sort of look at like your manuscript and look at the edits that are needed, and just sort of look at that process too. So.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. If you can identify what the edits are, like, why are you entering a contest instead of editing your book? Like, Rachel, you always tell me, like, I need to do this and this, but here, read it. And you're sending me something to read, and I always find that so funny because it's like, well, you have to do this, so do it, and then I'll read it. But, like, I think it just cannot be oversaid that your stuff has to be in the best shape possible. Obviously when you're querying, but also when you're entering contests. I was really dumb about this, but like when I was entering contests, I would enter like, a pitch and a 250, and then before the agent round or whatever, I would still edit stuff, or I would still be editing the manuscript. So that was obviously a bad idea, because I remember getting requests and not being ready to send them. Or one time I sent a requested manuscript that one chapter just had like a giant highlighted section, and on the top I'd written, "Fix this." It did not turn into an offer, surprisingly.
I think we all have those moments for sure.
Yeah, I sent Rachel, do you remember my hard work of Violent Delights? I remember my book before the book that I signed with Carrie, I worked on an R&R for 2 years, but I also like queried in the meantime. And I remember like somehow my formatting got screwed up, and like no matter what I did, like it just wouldn't, the right indent would just not happen. So I remember sending queries, and it would be like, dear agent so-and-so, like, I'm really sorry, but the formatting is screwed up.
Oh my God.
Like, but, I've been trying to, I've been, playing with Word, and it's just not happening, so.
We actually just got a question live from Roland Wingert at Caveat Ties, and he asked, because of what you mentioned, Rachel Solomon, about, can I just call you guys Solomon and Simon for the rest of the night?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Yeah. About how you
sound like a folk rock duo.
And now I feel left out, because I'm like, I don't have an S name.
You're just
okay. R in the alphabet is next to S.
Awesome. I like it. Okay, so question from Roland Wengert. I apologize if I butcher your name. And it's, how long does it take for you to know whether to shelf an idea?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
It took me like 3 years.
Wait, an idea or an entire manuscript?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably a manuscript, I think.
Now let's talk manuscript.
I guess, I don't know, because I've shelved a lot at various stages. I've shelved things when I was querying. I've shelved things that actually were on submission, and shelved things that never were queried or my agent never saw. So I think the biggest reason I shelved things were like I just didn't care about it anymore. It was not, like, it felt like I was dreading opening up my computer and working on something, and I just knew that if it was causing me that much agony to even open the document and look at page 1, like, why, if I don't feel good about it, why is my agent going to feel good about it? Why is an agent you're querying going to feel good about it? So to me, that's like the #1 reason, is if you're not feeling good about it. But I think the other side of that would be if maybe you're not getting requests, or if your requests are turning into, like, great concept but didn't connect with the pages or something like that. Could be worth maybe getting another read from someone who has never read it before, or hopefully while you're querying, maybe you're working on something else, so maybe you could shift your attention to that for a little while. I mean, could be so many things. Could be market and what stuff is selling and what isn't. Simon, do you want to add anything? I feel like I talked for a while. I'll zip my lips for a little bit.
I mean, I just think about, like, so I queried the book before the book, hold on. The book before I got my agent, I queried for 2.5 years, off and on, and it took me a really long, I think, yeah, I sent Rachel an email that was like, I'm sitting here crying, shelving this book, but, you know, and I queried it, and it was just a lot of, you know, I love your writing, and I love the concept, but I'm just not connecting, and I think that was really hard, and, I mean, my agent is interested in seeing it, but I sort of know that it's time to let it go, and I think that's also sometimes hard. But, you know.
I think those are very, very good answers, and I totally know what it's like to shelve a book for you. And actually, I was thinking about his question with shelving an idea and what the difference for that would be. And I was thinking, I actually had one manuscript that I think the concept was too close to what was out on the market right now, that the query, literally, despite going through so many workshops and people being like, oh, this is a very strong query, agents just were not requesting. And that's, I think, when you know the idea might not be strong enough, and when the writing content was after, you know, enough requests from it. That ding, by the way, is when we get a question or something, because my best friend, Emily Dunn at New Think Housewife, she's managing social media for me today because I miss her and she's fantastic. But yeah, Roland just wrote back that yes, he was referring to the manuscript. So your answers were definitely fine. So for everyone watching, if you do have a question you want to write in, feel free to tweet me or just use the hashtag WWWriting. Or if you want to come into the Hangout and just click on go to our website.
Wait, is this how you send it? Oh.
I don't know what you're doing. We're having way too much fun tonight on Whiskey, Wine, and Writing, and ironically enough, there is no whiskey or wine going on. But yeah, you can get into the Google Hangout to chat with us by going to whiskeywineandwriting.com and clicking on the live Google Hangout and chatting with us there. So feel free to ask questions. We're very happy to answer them. Ray said that she made it in, so she's glad. Thank you for watching. And Brenda said that she's making fajitas and laughing at us. So hi, Brenda.
Good. I'm glad.
Fajitas sound good right now. Fajitas sound really good. Does you want to come over?
Yeah, I want to have some fajitas tonight. I was like eating a piece of chicken, being like, "Let me get this ready for the show." Or saving, so.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Brenda, and Pitch Madness, and Pitch Mad, I got my agent from Pitch Mad.
Yes, tell us about that.
The Twitter thing. What is Twitter Pitch?
Pitch contest? Twitter pitch contest. Yes. Hashtag PitMad.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about like when you decided to enter that, how you did, and what that was like?
Okay, I guess I've entered it a few times. I will shamelessly admit that I totally searched like you can like search my name and also hashtag PitMad. Like I went all the way back to 2013 and like found my like old like PitMad.
Oh my god.
Thing. But so I actually have a story about that, going back all the way to 2013 that I was querying a shelved manuscript. It's now shelved. It wasn't shelved at the time. But I was revising it, and I sort of threw out a pitch, which I do not advise, do not do this. And I was revising the book, and an agent requested it. And I had to tell them that I was still revising and couldn't give it to them. And surprisingly, they were okay with it. But again, I would not do that because I had to send it to her like 6 months later. But yeah, so I threw together. I'm like weirdly good at Twitter pitches and like really bad at queries and synopses. So like I'm really good at an elevator pitch. If you ever need that for whatever reason, I'm your wing woman or woman.
How would you define an elevator pitch for those who maybe are new to PitMad and they're not really sure exactly what that means?
So I would say an elevator pitch is a short sentence or two about your book. I think a great example is right now Pitch Madness or Pitch Wars when you do a log line. I think that's a great example. If you use comp titles, if you not use comp titles, it just sort of gives a really brief description of your book. It's not like every detail.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think of like formulas, I think a lot of people talk about like character plus inciting incident plus stakes or something like that. So when Bella learns Edward is a vampire, she must decide whether to love him or be a normal teenager. I don't know. I read that forever ago. Whatever.
Beautiful.
I own a box set of them, by the way. A beautiful box.
I clearly need to reread.
But yeah, you know, I think I remember I wasn't even gonna do it. I remember that because I was G-chatting my critique partner again, and I think I was G-chatting Rachel, and I was like, I don't know, should I do it? I don't really care. Like, whatever. I'm just gonna like self-publish this book anyway. Like, I don't know what this book is. Like, is it new adult? Is it YA? I don't really care. So I threw together a pitch. I threw together a bunch. Like, I had a few with comp titles that didn't get, like, any requests. And then I had one that an agent at Andrea Brown requested, which was, oh my god, I wish I could, like, do a dual screen right now.
It's okay.
Anyway, it was a pitch about my book, and then I like clicked on the PitMad feed, and because I like knew that I felt like I was missing some agents, and Carrie had tweeted that she was like, oh, I'm interested in YA contemporary and middle grade and whatever, and if you have those, like, tweet at me. And I figured like a million people would tweet at her, which they did, and I tweeted at her, and I think my pitch was like 18-year-old Sadie's MAA sister comes home and there's PTSD, and that's not the only thing. I don't know, it was like 140 characters, and then I said like YA and then C for contempt, and she favorited it and wanted 50 pages, so that was exciting.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Not only did Twitter connect you with your BFF, it came.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember thinking, like, no one gets an agent off of Twitter pitches. Like, don't be ridiculous. You know, like, haha. And then a few months later, Carrie asked for the full. And then she followed me on Twitter, and I think I remember, like, texting Rachel. I remember this because I saw Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie. And I had gotten out of the theater, and I turned on my phone, and I clicked, I don't even know why I clicked Twitter, but I clicked Twitter, and it was like, Carrie is following you, Carrie Helen is following you, and I like texted Rachel, and I was like, what does this mean? And she was like, I don't know.
I think that's another great thing about CPs that we often don't talk about because, you know, in writing blogs and webcasts, we're always talking about the mechanics of writing and the things you need to know, but the great thing about CPs is that, hey, what does this mean? Help me overanalyze everything. How are you taking
yes.
Yeah. And it was really funny. Like, I thought it was really funny that when I got my, like, Carrie had emailed me and was like, I would love to talk. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, and it was, I just remember our G chat was like in all caps, and you're like, it's an offer, it's an offer, it's an offer, it's an offer. And I remember, I don't think, you know, I just, you know, it's hard. I think I didn't know what to expect. The last time I had a call with an agent, it was a revise and resubmit. So I sort of went into this call with a different, like, outlook, I thought.
I had that experience too. I don't know. I mean, I love Molly. But I don't know why agents say like, let's talk, because you never know like what it means. Because I had actually done the way that I signed with Molly was through a revise and resubmit, and we actually had a phone call to talk about it. And she was like super great. We like emailed back and forth while I was revising, and then I sent it in to her, and she emailed me on like a Sunday and was like, I just finished reading. Can you talk Monday or Tuesday? And I was like, oh no, she'll probably want more edits. That's what I was preparing for. But then on the phone, she said she wanted to work with me. But yeah, like, I mean, I think it's exciting. I love being in that place of opportunity where it feels like there are so many possibilities of things to happen. Like, I actually really enjoyed querying, so maybe I am a masochist. But
I love querying too. I don't know what it is. It's like
I did not. I remember I sent 30 queries and I said to Rachel, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna shelve it after this.
I sent like 100 for the book before the one that got me my agent.
I sent,
it was way too many.
I sent 62 for the book before this, and I had an R&R. And I queried for 2.5 years, and I remember I had a really good request rate, so I thought that was it. You know, I thought if you had a good request rate, you would get an offer, and you know, they just didn't connect with us. I think that's a myth a little bit. You know,
for some reason you have to be a good writer also. You can't just have a good query, so that's weird.
That is a good point, guys. Remember, you can have the world's best query, but if you didn't spend as much time on your book.
And I would say don't just polish the first like 10 to 30 pages. I think that's also one thing that people really hone in on because that's the first thing that an agent will see. But you should really work on your manuscript as a whole. You know?
Like how many times are you going to revise that first chapter? Like 5 million.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay, well, we're all different. I know my last chapters are probably like the roughest. They're literally just like, I walk in, I say bye, I leave. They're so poorly written. Hopefully not by the time I've finished revising, but.
I gotta say, I've probably rewritten my ending of my book maybe 7 times now.
Yeah. I think I feel like I rewrote the last scene in my book like 3 times because I just wasn't 100% nailing it. Or like I have a big subplot in my book that my agent was like, you really need to slow this down. Like it half it's a clue sort of thing. And they, the main character figures it out, but she in the original draft my agent she figured it out in like 10 pages.
And she also figured it out because she had a dream about it.
Oh yeah. I forgot about
that.
We actually got some questions, but before that, actually, I have a mini announcement that the querying conversation made me think of. I actually just got hired today to be the query editor for Stark Contrast Editing.
So, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I really love query letters, and so if anyone needs help with queries, go over to Stark Contrast Editing, and I will help you out.
That's so exciting.
Your query was great.
Thank you.
I don't think we even edited it when in Pitch
We
Wars.
did a little bit, only because Ellie got a hobby by the end of the book.
Oh, yeah.
So we added that in.
I think that was it. Like, it was pretty great.
Thank you. I love you. Okay, so here are our questions. The first one is from A. Suitor Clark at A. Suitor Clark. Do you recommend doing several different PitMad tweet versions or stick with just one? Working with tweet decks, no repeat thing is what was in brackets. Because if you repeat the same tweet over and over again, it'll mark you as spam, I guess. So do you recommend multiple tweets or just?
Yeah, I did multiple. Hold on, I'm gonna pause a little bit and search for mine so that this will be more helpful.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you did multiple versions, and I think also people get bored of seeing the same ones, even though I'm not an agent, on one of those PitMad days, and I see the same pitch over and over. it's not like annoying, but I'm just like, come on, switch it up. Like, that's a cool concept. There are probably other ways that you could make it sound a little more enticing. Like, maybe you have one that's just the straightforward,
Yeah.
when so-and-so does this, then this happens.
So
and then
I had a few.
yeah, well, then maybe you have one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I had one that was, my first one was when 18-year-old Sadie's sister comes home after the war, PTSD isn't the only thing she brings. Disguise everywhere, X, impossible knife of memory, and then Pit Mad. And I also had when 18-year-old Sadie's sister comes home, the relationship is shaken by PTSD and explosive secret. So I sort of played with it, and then my critique partner Jenna, hi Jenna, hopefully you're watching this or not. She wrote, and I was like, oh, that's so good, I'm going to sue it for myself, for my own book. And that was Sadie has to stop sleeping with a boyfriend her MAI sister left behind, especially now that she's coming home alive and broken. Which I had an editor be like, oh, I like this, which was like, yeah, I once had an editor from a Big Five request off Hitman, and I was like, I had said to her, well, you know, I don't have an agent. Like, I don't really, you know, I know that, you know, you don't really submit to a publishing house without an agent a lot of the time, unless I take unsolicited stuff. And so I sort of waited that one out.
Cool. Before I read the next question, I just gotta say we actually haven't seen the puppy yet, and I think, you know, puppy cuteness.
Oh.
is historic.
Sleepy, but here he is. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
He's so cute.
I know.
Oh,
He's sleepy. We went on a long walk.
Nice.
puppy gate. It's like better gate except puppies.
All right, so the next question is from Roland again. I love my first manuscript. May have been genre confused. Working on other stuff now. Thought turn it into a blog. Good idea or be patient?
Turn the book into a blog?
I think that's what he means. Roland, is that what you mean? Because that's how I'm interpreting it now. So until you answer, I'm going to say let's go with that.
Okay, I don't know anything about blogging. I don't do it.
I love blogs.
I love blogging so much. But I would turn your book into a blog.
Maybe, I mean, he could put it on, like, Wattpad. I don't know. I don't really know much about that either.
I mean, I guess I would put it on. I would shelve it. I mean, I would take a break and wait a little bit because I found if you put it aside and look at it again, sometimes you have different thoughts about it, or you can see the problem maybe, or maybe you love some parts of it. Like, I was going to give a good example. Oh, I can give a good example. My first novel that I shelved it in the middle of editing it because it was a high fantasy and I didn't know what I was doing. It's about a girl it's a fairy tale, high fantasy about a girl who goes to a kingdom where women can fight wars. And I feel like I took a lot of that sort of frame and actually put it into this book. So I feel like you never know sort of what you're going to use from the past manuscripts. Like, I would say don't throw anything away.
That's a really good idea. Like, I take random things from old manuscripts. Like, I had this subplot with a dog in the manuscript I'd shelved before, or like 2 manuscripts ago, and I just started working on something new, and I think I want to use, like, sort of the same subplot with the dog.
Is Sid Vicious coming back?
Yeah, but he might have a different name. I named him Sid Vicious in another manuscript because my character was obsessed with the Sex Pistols.
Oh, he's going to have a different name. What?
Yeah, but I just love dog subplots where it's not about, like, the dog dying or, like, the dog getting injured or the dog running away. So, like, anytime you can make the dog narrative different, And now we're going to talk about dogs because I just got a dog and I'm a little obsessed, even though he's sleeping right now.
Well, about blogging, I guess my advice would be, I mean, there's nothing wrong with blogging or blogging about your process, but if you're thinking that putting your book on a blog is going to get you an agent, I would probably steer clear of that. The only exception is if you're trying to write nonfiction and you start blogging about that topic a lot and maybe a really cool voice, that could get you an agent. We had Lindsay Tiger on the show recently, so she blogs about her dating adventures in New York, and she wants to write fiction, but first she's going to write a book about dating in New York and all the different situations she's got into, and it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's good to blog just about, the stuff in general. Maybe allude to your book, but don't publish your book online through blogging.
Yeah. I would say, I would shelve it for now, and you just never know what will come up. Or if you may go back to it in a year or two, you just don't know, or a few months.
It's somewhere to find that distance, I think, with reading the script before you can really dig into it and see all the things that are missing.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though.
That is a good question. And remember, guys, if you have questions for, Whiskey, Wine, and Ryan with awesome Rachel and Solomon and Rachel Simon, just feel free to either hop in the Google Hangout and ask us questions there, or tweet us with the hashtag WWWriting. I will see it, and I will ask it to them. So, feel free to ask. And these are great questions. These are different than what we
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, on the topic of, Pitch Wars and Pitman and all that stuff, how did you decide you were ready to enter?
Ooh, that is a good question.
When it came to Pitch Wars, this is going to show how obsessive my personality is. I saw it last December, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to be in that. And so I was already working on one book, and so I was revising it with my editor friend, who actually, ironically enough, works at Start Contest Editing. And that was the one book that I realized the idea wasn't unique enough, and so I took a break to write a really angsty young adult contemporary to get my feelings out about a situation I was going through. And I was like, I'm just going to write this for a while. And then it clicked, and I thought, you know what? This might be good for Pitch Wars. But I revised it 5 times-ish and went through 2 rounds of beta readers before I really decided whether or not I should send it. And when I sent it, I had test queried it 5 times just to see what agent response was. And a lot of them liked the query, but they thought the first couple pages were weak, which that was one of the biggest overhauls me and Rachel did, right? We just gutted the beginning of my book and made it so much tighter. But when I was applying, I knew... Sorry, go ahead.
You didn't, surprisingly.
No! Yeah, she sent me an email. She was like, my Pitch Wars mentee's gonna hate me.
Well, I love the revision process, and I love being able to make things better. And because I had revised it 5 times, I knew I had taken it as far as I could on my own. And I knew personally that there was something wrong with the end, but I didn't know what it was, if that makes sense. And my beta readers love my book, and they were to the point where they weren't giving me helpful feedback anymore because they were like, oh, you need to just query now. But I knew there was something off still. So I thought, well, I'll enter Pitch Wars. Maybe I'll get a mentor, and she can kick my butt in gear. And I'm not going to lie, it was when I read on the blog. What?
Oh, no, I said, and I did kick your butt in gear.
It was great. It was the best revising experience of my life. The whole hobby... Well, okay, the other problem I knew I had with my book, so I thought my book was strong, and people, literally loved it. I got all these tweets from people as they read it about how they couldn't put it down. This one little old lady read my book. I like to pick beta readers who aren't writers because it's less stressful for me. So I picked this
You just found old ladies.
I found an old lady, and I found a Navy SEAL. I just find random people to read my books. Because I like diverse opinions. And the lady said she stayed up way past her bedtime, which I think was 10 o'clock, and she read it all in one night because she couldn't get down. But one of the problems I knew was people would come in and they'd be like, oh, I loved your book. I loved this character. She was so sassy. Or I loved this character. He was so funny. I'm like, great, what did you think about Ellie? And they'd be like, who's Ellie? The main character. That's a problem. And that's when you need help. And I knew that. So I was definitely willing to do whatever it took to do that.
Yeah, and as Simon knows, one of my biggest pet peeves in books is when the main character has no interests and no hobbies. She's laughing because I text her constantly. I'm like, I'm reading this book and the main character has no hobbies. So that was my one major thing with Nikki's book, is that the main character was going through something really traumatic, and she was pregnant at 16 and the daughter of a pastor. And I was like, what does she like to do for fun? Like, what does she do? Does she like school? Like, how is she spending her time? And Nikki landed on something really awesome, which was Color Guard, which I didn't know what that was because I'm in the Northwest. And
Is that on the East Coast then?
it's like a South thing, right?
Yeah, they're on the East Coast.
You have it too?
I've never done it, but I know what it is. It's like,
Flipping flags. Well, it was really funny because when you asked me what she did for fun, I was like, well, this girl is, I mean, the book's called The Truth About Two Shoes because she's a goody two shoes. And I was like, well, maybe she likes to volunteer. And you were like, no. And you were like, go extreme and whittle it down. So I remember thinking extreme. So I started with skydiving and sumo wrestling. And then I kept going down until I found something that wasn't textbook. Because the other idea was drama, and you said a lot of books had that. And I was like, well, that's a valid point. A lot of books have theater geeks. I should do something new. So my pregnant teen twirled flags in the air.
I mean, well, I love that because I think that says so much about like the town and the community as well. And yeah, like you did a cool job integrating it. But I just love books where I can learn about like a new hobby.
I'm like totally interrupting. Hi, Tom Mulroy.
Oh, it's our brother.
Sorry.
What?
Your Asian brother was like, it's so nice to see you, like, on the internet talking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he writes middle grade. Sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
But yeah, so the other thing with Wars was not only did I stalk it from the December, the first time I saw the contest existed, I remember they like announced the names of the mentors before there was like mentor blog. So I went through the list and followed every single person and created a Twitter list. And then I was like researching people to see who would be who. And then I read through all the posts that they put. And it was actually Rachel's blog was, I actually had all these convoluted ideas about the people I would ask to be my mentor, and I had to fit my list. But then I just fell in love with Rachel's post about like who she was and what she liked to read. And when you said that you liked religion and other social issues in literature, I just thought, well, that's cool because you don't see that often in, you know, what people like to read.
Speaking of that, have you read, shout out again, have you read Catherine Holmes's A Distance Between Lost and Found? It just came out from Harper Lee. It's about a girl who goes on a church wilderness trip and gets lost, and her name is Hallelujah, and she has to figure out how to get back to the group of people. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that yet. But I want to because you told me to.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I remember Rachel's bio because I wrote it.
What?
Oh, my Pitch Wars bio? Yeah, you kind of did. I mean, like, I edited it, but well, you were just like, this is what your bio is going to say, and then I wound up saying exactly what you recommended, because you know me better than I know me, I guess. But also, it was, like, I remember hoping that Nikki would submit to me, because she had talked about her book on Twitter, that it was, like, Freaks and Geeks meets Saved, and I know a ton of people love Saved, but, like, maybe not as many people love Freaks and Geeks, just because I guess it's only had one season, it's been off the air for a long time, but like, oh my god, I love that show so much, so I wanted it really badly.
That means too much to me. I was like, I hope you don't think I'm weird.
What?
I was like, I didn't think I'm weird.
I did, but I liked it.
Well, thank you. See, that's another thing with the online writing community. Now, through Pitch Wars, me and Rachel are friends, and then she connected to me to her CP, who Solomon was on a trip when I got all my agent requests after Pitch Wars, and I was like overwhelmed up to the wazoo with tons of requests. I couldn't even grasp life. And so here's Rachel Simon emailing me like, oh, I'm here to guide you as Rachel's on her plan. And it was the best thing ever to have that support from other writers, because my cubicle neighbor at work doesn't really know what's going on and can only listen to so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say that when I had four offers, and Rachel was in meetings all day, and my other critique partner was on vacation, so I had this week of time where I was like, I don't know what to do. And like the day of, I just sat on my phone and was like, Rachel, why are you in a meeting? Why are you in a meeting? And I sort of felt like I wanted to give that back. That I wanted that support. I wanted it from an angle. Rachel, love you.
Are you saying that I like constantly let people down when they need it?
That is not what we're saying.
No, but I was gonna say that we had one author and one with her agent, and so did my other critique partner. So I didn't have the experience of knowing people who had multiple authors. So.
Makes sense.
It's like having a bunch of built-in cheerleaders into your phone and computer, which is awesome.
Yeah. But I do want to say that Pitch Madness is awesome. Our agent is doing it this year, and she did it last year, and found our agent with her, Olivia and Tom, who's our agent, not our agent.
Now, since we mentioned that one book that we should all read, we figured we could do a little segment on what's everyone reading. So, what are you guys reading today?
Oh my God, I just had it next to me. Wait. Oh, I don't want to run, but I want to run and get it. Oh. Okay.
Okay, you guys. What are you reading?
What?
What are you?
I zoned out.
Yeah, you left us to go get the book.
What am I reading? Let's see. I always have something on Kindle and paper and audiobook at the same time, but I'm getting into, on Rachel's recommendation, Deb Coletti, who lives in Seattle, and she writes stuff that's set in and around Seattle. It's all YA contemporary, though I think she has a couple women's fiction books out right now. But yeah, so I'm going through her list of books. I just read my first one and loved it. I just love things set in the Northwest, and it just was really a real story and real characters and really beautifully written. So yeah, Deb Coletti. That's what I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm reading
Oh God, I'm so jealous. I hate you.
By Hillary G. Smith, and it comes out in May. Shout out to Jen Bishop, who's at Buffalo Jen, double N at the end, on Twitter. She is amazing and gave this, or lent it with me, I don't know. And it's about a girl who's in her senior year and has a best friend, and her best friend starts dating this guy, and it's sort of like about a friendship that is separating who is this girl without her. And on that note, I was rereading this morning, Maybe One Day, by Melissa Cantor, which is also about friendship. And I love that book a lot, so I want to get it.
I'm so jealous of the copy.
The reason that I was fangirling over that book is that Hillary T. Smith's debut, Wild Awake, was one of my favorite books of, was that 2013 that it came out? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't want to really give away what it's about because the reveal is pretty shocking and really intense. So don't judge it by its summary because I don't think the summary tells too much about what it's about.
I did, and then Rika was like, don't do that. So.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowingly cool and sensory writing, and yeah, just really fascinating. Can't say enough good things about that book.
What are you reading?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad because the last time we had a show, I'm still reading the same things. And I'm kind of reading 2 books at once, and I'm a little backed up because I've had a crazy week. But I'm reading King Dork on my Kindle, which is a young adult contemporary, and then I'm reading an autobiography in real life, the actual physical book that smells beautiful. And it's As You Wish by Carrie Ellis about the Princess Bride. I am a huge Princess Bride fan. But I love autobiographies, and I needed a break because I was at a really sad book before that, and yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, I'm usually reading 10 things a week. So.
I don't know how both you guys read as much as you do. That's one of my favorite things about you guys. You have such great recommendations because you read 3,000 books a year.
Well, I think part of it is just trying to keep up with what's coming out, and I think at this point I'm so I try a lot to keep up with the contemporary YA coming out each week, but I stay so on top of it that now I'm going back and reading books that were published even before like 2010, which doesn't seem that long ago, but in YA years, it's a lot. Because I'm reading books from like 2009, and they're like, I don't have a cell phone, so I don't have any way to call him, or like I log onto my MySpace, and I'm like, oh my god, which is a good reason not to write about technology like that in books.
Yeah.
But there were so many great books that are published.
Gonna say that I went to the Denver Publishing Institute this past summer, and they said that if you go into an interview and read a book that has been published more than 5 years ago, that it doesn't feel like you're reading enough of your genre. So that, you know, my friend was like, oh, I loved, I can't think of what she did, but something from like 5 years ago. But, and then, you know, someone was like, well, in her interview, they were like, well, what have you read recently? And she was like, you know, well, I loved Sloppy First by Megan McCafferty. Well, that was written in 2001. So I feel like that kind of, you have to keep up, but don't feel the pressure to. Like, if you are feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to step back. I'm learning that. I'm learning how to not read every week the week comes out. So.
And I love how Goodreads has the thing where you can judge to a certain number of books. And I stared at mine for a while and was like, well, I guess I can try to do 50 this year. That's a lot, though. And then I look at both of yours, and it's like in the hundreds. So you
I don't want to talk about my Goodreads. It like gives me anxiety.
And I'm ahead of mine. I'm really happy. I'm like 5 books ahead of my goal right now.
I think I'm behind.
Or 5 books ahead of being on track, whatever that is.
Congrats. I am.
Yay.
You get virtual
Nice.
study from Goodreads if you meet your goal.
You should. You should get something. It's honestly just for me about like the personal challenge. I'm very competitive with myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I get mad at my Goodreads. I'm on Goodreads, which is a social media website for book reading. You know, I don't really write reviews on there, but I just sort of keep track of what I'm interested in, or what I'm not interested in, or what I'm reading. And you can set a challenge for yourself, and you can always change the number. I recently learned this. Because my number right now is, I'm like embarrassed because it's crazy. 300.
Your number is 300? Sorry, that's a little too overwhelmed for this website.
My challenge is to read 300 books this year.
Oh my god, that's almost a book a day.
So this episode of Whiskey, Wine, and Writing, Nikki realized she's inferior in her reading ability.
But I can change it at any time.
But that's, I mean, are you going to feel good about yourself if you do that?
No. I'm so competitive with myself. But I honestly chose 300 knowing that I won't make it, but that I was somehow able to read 200 books last year. I don't know how. I was working like 5 days a week. I don't really, but I had a commute. I think that's what it was. I had a subway commute that I had to read.
But
I chose 300 knowing that I won't make it.
I think it's really true though. The thing I learned the most from you guys, I think, as an author, how important it is to read your genre, so you know what's going on, you know what's in the market, you know who your competition is, and that way you don't do an idea that's overdone. And I think that's something that some writers even consider.
But I think with that, as Rachel can attest to how new I am, is that if I see a book that kind of has a summary like mine, I freak out. And unfortunately, my agent is going to watch this and be like, Rachel, stop that. She sends me emails all the time. Stop comparing yourself to everyone. Capital letters. Because, you know, I think that you can have some ideas, and you can write totally. I think my example is the most recent I'll Meet You There by Heather Demetrios, a book I love. It came out like 2 weeks ago, and it's about a girl in a small town who wants to get out, and she gets a job at a local motel and meets a boy named Josh, and they fall in love, and he's a war vet. And I remember seeing this pitch, and I emailed Rachel and I said, I give up. Because my book is about a girl who wants to leave her small town and gets a job in the town general store and meets a boy named Jesse, and they fall in love. And there's also a war vet in my book. And, I read it and realized this is a perfect example of going into a classroom and being given, write a book, write a scene about a girl who works in a small town and meets a boy, and that's it. We came up with completely different books, completely different plots. There's no problem. I think that often writers are prone to freaking out. We're just neurotic. So.
Well, now we're coming up on the hour. 5 minutes left.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And everyone, good luck in pitch madness and pitch wars and getting out.
That's the thing with 5 minutes close. Wondering if you had any parting wisdom that you would give our viewers, whether it's on revising or CP Love or the online writing community. What would your one piece of advice be for?
I would say be open to revision. I think that I wasn't. I wrote my first book, and I thought that if you got a few requests, an agent would tell you immediately what was wrong if it wasn't wrong. That is not the case.
Oh no, you froze.
Well, luckily it was in the last 5 seconds. While we wait for her to come back,
I feel so bad. I wish she'd frozen in a more flattering place.
You came back.
Okay.
Did you come back? No, yep, you're there. I see you moving.
Okay. To be open to revision. I was afraid of edits. I was like, my book is perfect. It doesn't need anything. I realized that every book is perfect. I've met authors that publish that are books on the shelf, and they say, oh man, if I could only go back to that scene and change that one line. It's always, it's a constant thing. So be open to it. Don't be afraid.
I think mine is almost along those same lines, because it's just something that I am still trying to do myself, and that's to push and take risks. So whether that's maybe entering a contest or querying an agent who's a superstar agent and you would never think would represent you, you never know. Your book could be exactly what that person is looking for. But also in books or in your writing too, don't write the scene that's predictable, or write the scene the way that comes naturally and then rewrite it. Push yourself to do something different and unique and that hasn't been done before. Push boundaries and all those other cliches. But yeah, so just take risks, because that's why we're doing this, right? I think that's why I'm doing it, is to write something new and reach teens and make some kind of impact. So
you said that, the one thing I really learned from you was I'm so challenged in my writing to explore areas I hadn't explored before that it was whoa, why was I afraid to do this? So take our advice, guys. Help me get home.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so that ends the hour. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you, Rachel Guest.
Thanks for having us.
You guys can read more about them at www.whiskeywineWriting.com, and support your fellow authors. Go follow them on Twitter, and they're great. So have a wild night, and do good writing stuff, everyone. Okay, good night.